Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Just Enough Heshy show, another Just Enough Heshy show. And this week, Tom, you did not introduce the show because I was ready.
We were on time this week. I got here early.
We're not on time. We're 16 seconds late. But I want to say hello to you, Tom. I know you weren't feeling well. And even with Tom not feeling well, what a trooper. He comes in and struggles through the door and wouldn't let me buy him a tea.
No.
And, of course, we want to say to our beautiful co-host, Devorah, how are you?
I'm good.
She's wearing a he's sending me a message. I told him he could text me. I can't see nothing.
He wants us to send the caller number, which is 646-974-1580.
646-974-1580. He's saying no calls. We are taking calls. We are. You can. And Devorah is wearing a beautiful new scarf. Gorgeous. You look so pretty. And she says her grandfather said always to wear a scarf. Is that true?
Yes, he told me to always wear a silk scarf.
Wow. That must cost a lot of money, those silk scarves. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we are going to have a series. So we have a wonderful guest co-host, Diane Sare. She's running for state senate. She is, I spoke to her today. She's traveling upstate. She's running all over New York. She is going to talk to us serious about this is a person now with all the serious bad issues that are happening across the world and in Israel, which we're going to talk about, and what's going to happen in America. I hope nothing. We're going to ask Diane, who's a professional, a smart person from two generations, one from the past and one in the future, who understands. Maybe she could direct us. Maybe she could give us insight to where we are lost in this planet. And I don't mean, Tom, to sound sad, but I am sad. And I'm going to tell most of you why I'm sad. And, of course, you all know about the Israel situation. You've all been watching the news. You've all been watching Hamas. But there's so much more to discuss about it. And my screen is still not up for some reason. I guess the show is not started. Diane is not. I can't see Diane. Oh,
we'll get her shortly. We're working on that.
Yeah, so we don't even have Diane on the show. Okay, well, I love Diane anyways, and I can't wait to get it. They're screaming at me that I shouldn't talk. We got another minute to go till we introduce our 60,000 listeners on the 3 live stations. And Devorah is looking at the screen, hoping that it will come on. She's praying that I don't scream at our producers again. Why do I scream at them so much, Devorah? Don't go with the hands. Well, nobody sees you on the radio with the hands.
In the meantime, Heshy, as we get ready to join from our 60,000
our show is up and running.
I wanted to early on say hello to, eventually in about 90 seconds, 6:20 a.m., of course, WSNR.
Yeah, but you got to say hello to them when they come on.
All right, but we want to still get ready for them.
Okay, good.
Instead of you getting the producer mad, and I could see, he just left it in and out. But obviously, we have some people who joined in already. I want to say hello to Anthony Finkel. Of course, Anthony J. Finkel, one of our favorites.
I love you,
Joey
Anthony.
Brooklyn.
Joey, wow.
Joey Brooklyn here. Lenny, of course. Lenny's always got something to say.
Lenny,
hopefully next time we have a migrant protest to make sure, Lenny, that Heshy speaks, not make it the Ari Kagan show. That's all.
That's right. Yep. Very good. Thank you, Tom.
Yes, we don't. Ari Kagan, let him go deal with his own issues. We need Heshy next time to be at speaking. But obviously, all kidding aside, hi to Lenny. Also, anybody else out there, Steve's Workbench wants to obviously pray for what we're going to talk about a lot tonight about Israel.
Correct.
The horrific thing. And I've gotten a lot of messages from people before we went on the air basically asking us what we were going to talk about when it comes to Israel. We'll certainly talk about that when Diane jumps on the stream here shortly.
Right, because Diane is going to be in the Senate and she's going to be dealing with a lot of foreign issues and so on. So she better be not prepared. She better be super prepared.
And she's going to be in there and where she's going to be somebody that's going to be a deciding vote in a lot of things.
So we are now being joined by our live radio stations. Who's listening to us, Tom?
So apparently, obviously, our very good friends over at 620 WSNR AM, 1640 WJPR, and my favorite on FM, 93.5 FM WVIP, like the old Pamela Anderson show, VIP.
And my YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram
YouTube
fans.
at Just Enough Heshy, 7005 backspace streams. Also, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Heshy_Tischler.
You are wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a bad thing that happened in the world over the weekend. And I want you to know, people have called me My son was in Israel. I brought him home. My family has been in Israel since 1945. I've driven every inch of that country.
You were talking
and
about
no
today
man's
on
land.
Zoom that you were there before the roads were even
I
built,
was
the
there
bridges.
before the main highways, the roads, driving through the back roads, going through no man's land. I used to have Palestinian friends when I used to stop off as a travel agent in Jericho and other countries. I even had Palestinian friends come here and stay by me. So I don't understand the conflict, but then again, I do understand it. I have family that are in the army, generals, colonels, soldiers. I have religious, non-religious. So yes, I am worried about Israel. Yes, I did not have any losses, thank God, that I know of. And I am proud to support the land of Israel. And I want you to know, and you're going to be angry with me, Tom and Devorah, what I'm going to say, but if they come hurt my family, I come crush them. And there was a guy standing at the airport with $500,000 on his credit card buying tickets for people to fly to Israel. You have to text me on WhatsApp. It's for me to see.
I know the producer's signaling to us, I think.
And I have a guy who bought tickets for people to go there to join the army. My friends and family, by the way, Tom, we raised over $80,000 for the ceramic vests. My niece, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law went today to pack hundreds of boxes of food and other supplies to ship to Israel. We are here to support, just like people supported Ukraine, we've got to support Israel. This is not only a friend, this is not only a Jew, this is family. And I'm telling you one thing, and I'm sad what I'm going to say now because I'm not a violent person, I'm not for war. Israel's got to crush them, wipe them out, every single person, and I'm going to tell you why. They kidnapped a young girl on video. I watched it this week, Tom. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, and did you see Twitter with all the
But they
skeletons?
kidnapped this girl and they shoved her in the back of a Jeep. They dragged her out like a dog, and today they were singing as they burnt her alive on video. I watched her being burnt alive. These animals have to be crushed. I'm telling you now that the FBI gave out a warning that the United States shouldn't be scared. Be scared, they're coming after us. But Tom, you know, tomorrow there's a demonstration by the Palestinians in Brooklyn College.
In front of Brooklyn College.
What are they demonstrating?
And one of our listeners had alerted me of this, and I know you were talking about it with me off the air, and this is unfathomable.
I'm going.
That the City University of New York is actually allowing this to happen still. The City University, which, by the way, our state legislators, our city council members all support and say, we got to fund CUNY, we got to fund CUNY.
Yeah.
What's the point of funding
where
these
are all these
organizations?
councilmen getting up and saying something? And Devorah, you told me somebody in Harvard got thrown out of school about this?
No, I didn't say someone got thrown out of school. I said that in Harvard there was a coalition of students who signed a petition against Israel and what they were doing. So it was Bill Ackman, the big fund manager, who spoke up and said, I want to have that list because we want to know who are those students who obviously don't have values that align with our values.
But I heard a lot of Harvard students are supporting these Palestinians, and it's very bad. And I want you to know, it's not that you support, like Black Lives Matter. You went out and demonstrated for Black Lives Matter, but you don't, you support the Palestinians murdering. And forget demonstrating and firing
Heshy,
rockets.
I just want to alert you that Diane Sare is ready to come on.
Oh.
here. So if you, I know we
We're
can
gonna
talk
do.
all
We're
day,
gonna. But before we start the show, as you know, I do a little quote and joke, and I know you're not gonna like it, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways. And here's my quote about war, and I want Diane to hear it because she's gonna be responsible to stop this. War does not determine who is right, but only who is left. You know what that meant, right? It's not the right or the left. It's like who's left at the end of war. Doesn't make a difference. It's sad. And only the dead have seen the end of war because war never ends. We've got to stop these wars. Anyways, I'm going to do a quick joke. You know, it was a very cold winter this year, and I took my great uncle, he was 90 years old, Uncle Max, to the supermarket. Oh, wow. And he was trying to pay for his groceries. And Uncle Max is an old man, and he has his gloves on from the cold, and he's starting to count out the change. And this guy behind us was very upset, and he cursed at the old man. You know what I mean? Yeah, and he says, move along. And Uncle Max stopped counting. He turned around. He says, be quiet or I'll start writing a check. You know, it takes a long time to write. Devorah didn't get the joke. Okay.
It reminds me of the old Trading Places movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
For some reason,
Yeah.
that guy could be in that movie. I have no idea why.
I want to do a shout out to Mira Nava, my beautiful granddaughter.
Favorite part of the show,
I
Mira
know.
Nava.
Layla and Sergeant Peter.
Sergeant
You know I
Peter.
love you. You always
Yes.
text me, and Yeshua and my friend Ellie. You want to call into the show? What's the number?
646-974-1580. 646-974-1580.
We're going to bring our wonderful friend Diane. Are you on the line with us, Diane? I don't see you on the camera.
Yes. Now
Yeah,
you can see me.
Diane, I want to introduce you for a second. You are running for the state senate.
For U.S. Senate.
The U.S. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're running around my state, and you're making, you're up and down. You're in Syracuse. You're in the car. I feel so bad for you because the other day I had to go visit somebody who's my daughter-in-law's grandfather passed away, and I had to just drive to Baltimore back and forth 10 hours, and I almost had a heart attack. You, young lady, you must be powerful driving to Syracuse and back and all over our state. You are a real soldier. You're the Energizer Bunny in a sense. You never run out of energy. So I'm proud that you are running around, that you will represent us. But Diane, question number one, and we have to get it out of the way. You're an American girl. You know what goes on in the world. I know you have problems here in this country that we have to face. We want to hear your opinion on what happened in Israel and why aren't you, all of your senators, and why is your friend over there? What's the lady's name? Taliban? What's her name again? I have a picture of her, Diane, and I want you to comment on it. That this congresswoman, what's her name? What's her name?
I think Rashid.
Ilhan Omar.
Rashid.
Well, her too. That's her too.
Rashid
Oh,
Taliban.
Rashida Tlaib.
Right. She's standing with an American flag and a Palestinian flag in our Congress. Explain this to me and explain to me what you feel and what do you think should be done. You are going to be a U.S. Senator. We want to hear your opinion straight out, what you believe.
Well, I think we really have to get above this intensely inflamed emotional situation where the idea is to get everybody hating each other. And I think, look, I have not been happy with the situation, the plight of the Palestinian people. But that does not mean in any way that you can say that's why Hamas did what they did and committed hideous atrocities. And I think we really do have to remember 9/11. Lyndon LaRouche, who was alive at the time, he passed away 4 years ago, wrote a warning, and I think it's worth thinking about. He denounced CNN for whipping everyone into a frenzy. He said it reminded him of a guy who comes home, his house has been robbed, he pulls out a shotgun, and he kills the next door neighbor's cat. And his wife says, "Honey, that's the neighbor's cat." And he said, "Shut up or I'll kill you too." What's the point? There's a lot of questions here, like how could such a massive attack really have been undetected?
I agree.
We need to get to the bottom.
Right there, Diane. I did want to talk about that. Tom told me not to. A conspiracy theory. It's I mean, I don't want to blame anybody, Diane. And again, I have no problem with the plight of the Palestinian people. They are given another state. They were given a beautiful country of Gaza. The Jews who live there, just want you to know, Dan, I was in Gaza. They dragged the Jews physically out of their homes and gave them a beautiful green piece of land, houses and buildings. They built it with waterworks. They supply electricity and food and other stuff to this day. Now Israel says, why should we supply you with anything? Hamas is not the Palestinian people. I got that. But if the people rise up, you can fight back. They're not fighting back against Hamas. They're teaching their children. Now other Arab youngsters in other countries are saying, wow, if Hamas was able to get away with it. And you're right, Diane. How does 1,200 terrorists get through a border which have 3 battalions sitting there, video cameras, watching day and night. If you come with a string and you touch the gates, it pops up alerts. How did this happen? My partner told me, well, the bombs deterred us and we couldn't see what was going on. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, just like I don't believe COVID was real. They just tricked us to do something that we don't know what happened. But I understand.
So here's
Let
what it
me
comes
give
down
you
to.
a few-
Diane, you get into the Senate. What are you going to do? You got people here commenting that kind of want you to clarify. What are you going to do if you're in the Senate? You're going to be in a contested chamber. What would be Diane Sare's solution to rectify this situation?
I think that one of the things that Trump was right about, for which he got into an enormous amount of hot water, is he wanted an audit of our so-called intelligence agencies, because they've been involved in a million dirty operations. And I think you really have to take a step back. Biden and his administration had a problem, which is getting bigger and bigger, which was that there is no possible way that Ukraine could win a war against Russia. You just have to know the history, look at a map, forget it. Biden and his team have staked everything on Ukraine winning the war. We heard about the great counteroffensive. We had Zelensky in the Congress. We had the Azov battalion, a neo-Nazi battalion, selling trinkets to our congressmen. And then you had yesterday morning the spokesman for the National Security Agency saying how great the Ukraine war has been for the defense industry. No, I think that's sick. There's like 500,000 dead people, and you're going to say, oh, this has been so great for our industry. Well, now you have a problem. Ukraine just did this 4-month counteroffensive, and they're not winning. They're losing. They're having thousands of people dying every week. And Biden's tied himself to this, so they need to change the subject.
So if
and I'm
Trump
not
comes
saying
into power, Diane, and according to President Trump, he can stop the war in a day. Even what's his name again? Putin said that he agrees, that he thinks that not does he agree, but he says, look, Trump says he can stop the war in a day. Do you really think that Trump would get into power there and stop this war? I mean, I heard that Putin is willing to make a deal now as long as they don't join NATO. So don't join NATO. He's even willing to give them back Crimea. That doesn't make sense to me, that they're not willing to make peace over a stupid piece of little land in NATO.
Well, I think the main thing, and I'll let Diane speak further on this, is that we're spending all this money sending it in an endless war.
Billions.
Billions,
I think Diane.
That's the point that I think you
Hundreds
are
of
trying
billions.
to say to the
And
audience.
I'm also
jump in.
I'm saying that the timing of this attack is very convenient for the narrative, because there's nothing about which people are more emotional than Southwest Asia. And you can get the American people totally divided, and I mean hysterically, emotionally so. And suddenly we're not watching anymore what's happening in Ukraine, where Boris Johnson flew to Texas a couple months ago to make sure the Congress would keep authorizing the money. And you may have seen what happened in the Senate. The continuing resolution doesn't have any money for Ukraine. So now people like my buddy Chuck Schumer says we should send $100 billion to Ukraine. Wow. And put it in legislation so that a new Congress cannot override it.
And this is also a point on the government, that they had the brief government to block the shutdown, is that now we're going to go through this again probably in 5 weeks from now. And that's to the point
45 days.
Yeah, well, it was 45 when they made the deal. Now it's like about 5 now.
Right.
But the point is also further, which I think is so interesting that you bring up, is that, they want to include all this money for Ukraine, but back at home here, he wants to do nothing to address the situation with migrants here, which is destroying our state, frankly, destroying our country, which I find very fascinating, that he wants to, basically fund all these projects like Ukraine, but do nothing here at home in New York.
Diane, I want to get to another thing with you. And, there are 20 missing Americans, 25 dead Americans that we know of, or 22, I was
22,
told.
I think it was.
22 was the last thing. Now, you are you're the senator now. Do you reach out to the Palestinians and say, return the hostages? Do you tell the Israelis who lost 1,200 people who were beheaded? I mean, I understand the war, the shooting, the killing. Let's just say that. These Hamas burnt, beheaded, raped women, tortured them. What do you tell the Israelis? Back off? Just let's make a deal? I mean, you're now
No,
you're in charge of the foreign affairs.
we
What
have
could
to
you
get.
do? What's your solution to stop this war and make
Okay,
peace? Or do you tell the Israelis, wipe them out?
no, because who are you wiping out? I don't think you can say that Hamas represents 2.2 million Palestinians. I don't believe in guilt, collective guilt. And the problem of doing it this way is what you're now getting is every Arab and Muslim nation is going to join this thing against Israel. So this policy is creating actually a much more dangerous situation for Israel, as opposed to doing something where you could be strategic. And that's why I'm saying we have to know what was behind this really.
So what do
How
you
could
suggest
ha-
Israel do, though? What do you suggest them to do? Just fold their hands and just say, come in and...
No. And that's
Okay.
why I'm saying this is so divisive. It's like saying, well, if you say you think it's a war crime to cut off electricity and water to 2.2 million people, which technically it is, that means you support Hamas. Why does that follow? In other
They,
words,
they didn't cut off, Diane, you're making a mistake. They did not
yeah,
cut off water and electricity. Israel supplies for free to the Gaza because they controlled it and they give them the water and electricity for free. They're saying now, why should we give you anything? They had their own electricity plant as well. They just ran out of fuel. The main Palestinian government can give them all their stuff. Why isn't the main government giving them their stuff? Why is Israel still during a war having to supply their enemy? And 2.2 million
well,
people living in Gaza, they don't have to live in Gaza. They call it an open-air
Russia's still
prison. They could just
supplying
leave Gaza and go to the main country.
Russia's still supplying Ukraine with diesel fuel. These things are very,
Really? Ukraine,
but,
they're still
but
supplying.
yeah, Ukraine is getting their diesel fuel from Russia. I mean, that's why I'm saying people, we have innocents getting slaughtered on behalf of giant financial interests who are behind the scenes, who never get blamed, and they create. I'm extremely concerned about the way this is going to spread. I think Russia knows a great deal about this region. Putin has had very interesting relations both with Israel and the other countries. China's been involved in the region in a way that I think very much alarmed the Israelis when they brokered that agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Uh, I think the U.S. has got to get with Russia and China. We got to put a stop to the slaughter. Obviously, Hamas should not be allowed to run and commit terrorist atrocities. I will remind you, though, on this point of auditing the intelligence agencies, the United States, under Obama, was funding ISIS that was
That's a good
rounding
point.
up
Yeah,
Christians
good point.
in Syria and carting them around in cages and beheading them and doing the exact same thing. So you want to look at, somehow we've got to stop the cause of this and check ourselves from, you say, how do you not get completely emotionally involved when you see a hideous atrocity
Right.
committed against a child?
A child.
Right.
Do you believe Hamas is a terrorist agency?
Well, it's obviously committing terrorist crimes right
So
now.
why don't we just wipe out Hamas? Forget the people. We won't go after the people, but Hamas has to be wiped out door to door, and anybody who protects Hamas has to be as well punished. I mean, like you said, how many Hamas
let me
members
ask you
could there
this.
be? And I don't
Do you
believe that
know?
Diane, I don't believe all the Arab countries are going to join in. I don't believe Egypt will join in. I don't believe Qatar. I don't believe Saudi Arabia. And look at Iran. They should be bombed. Iran Diane is the one that
And
supported
Biden
these
gave
Hamas.
$6 billion to Iran recently. I don't understand that. What was that about?
Yeah, Miss Senator, how do you give $6 billion to a terrorist country? I know they gave us back our 5 Americans for $6 billion. Each of those Americans were worth $1 billion. I'm worth $1 billion. Diane, you're worth $2 billion.
Right. Well, you should have given a lot more money to my campaign in that case.
I know I have to. Tom gave the first donation. I'm going to give much more. You watch. Oh, by the way, hold on. That's a good idea. Can we please tell everybody about Diane's website? We are working on. We need Diane elected. What's your website anyway?
SareForSenate.com, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I was
Correct.
asking Diane, Tom.
SareForSenate.com.
Oh, you put it up in the chat,
Yes, I
but
did.
we need it all over. Sare, S-A-R-E,
FOR.
F-O-R, F-O-R,
Senate.com.
Senate, S-E-N-A-T-E.
.com.
Guys, look her up. Check her out. Look at Diane. She is smart. I'm not trying to build you up, Diane, but we're listening to you talk, and we need somebody that will, okay, I understand you want to broker and make things nice in the world. I'm going to tell you myself, Diane, here's where I have a problem, and now we're going to talk about your backyard. You live in New York. I live in New York. You're running all over the state. Forget about Israel. Forget about Palestine now. Forget about everybody else. You're not worried that they're coming to get us? I want to just read one little thing to you, and then I want you to comment on it. The leader of the Hamas, what's his name?
I don't think it really matters.
No, but I wanted to hear this. Hamas calls for this founding member of the former leader of Hamas, Khalid Mashal, has called for a day of sacrifice, heroism, dedication to jihad worldwide. He wants a general mobilization this Friday, October 13th, and he wants not only to attack a global invasion of Israel, he wants Jews attacked worldwide. Now, you know that when they come after us here, they're going to be coming after not only the Jews, but the Gentiles are going to be affected. Yep. Do you believe this is possible to happen in New York? Do you believe it will happen? And when it happens, and which I'm hoping it never does, look at our response on September 11th. We went and blew up an entire country of Iraq. Do you not think that Israel, 1,200 people getting killed, which is for them bigger than the September 11th, they have to give a response. They have to, Diane, but forget about Israel.
Okay, so it's good. I'm glad you brought that up because Iraq had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. They never even had Al-Qaeda in the country until we invaded, killed 1 million people, and had Saddam Hussein hanged. And you can see how great that's worked. The country has been dysfunctional ever since, and there's been, 40 million displaced persons because not only did we
count on how many times they formed a government there, right?
Right.
So, Diane,
that's why I'm saying.
You as a senator believe most likely, and I believe, the First Amendment. So if like a Canadian pilot or somebody speaks out like DeVoe was telling us about these kids from Harvard and saying, or like tomorrow, the protest, that Palestine is good, we should allow them the freedom to do these, because, by the way, I want to tell you, just alone in the last 2 days, Diane, 12 hate crimes in my community, 12 attacks of hate crimes, and they let the perpetrators, the Palestinian young men and women, to go. 12 hate crimes, not in a month, not in a week, in a day and a half. And we're letting them go, Diane. So you think that by letting these people speak, even though the First Amendment is their right, hate is hate, and we have to stop it. There was an Israeli woman, in Israel, most of the kibbutzes were killed or wiped out, or people were running away, lost family members. There was one kibbutz, I want to tell you this wonderful story. I was telling it to Tom. Her name is Israeli. Yes, not Israeli. I'm sorry. Her name was Inbar Lieber.
Last night you were speaking
right, and she was from a kibbutz called Nir Am. 25-year-old girl. She heard something wrong with the bombs. She opened up her arms. She placed in very cool area, very strategical areas in the kibbutz. She ran these older people and that's the only kibbutz. Right, she was head of security. A 25-year-old girl. She saved an entire kibbutz. Not one person was killed. Matter of fact, they killed she alone killed 5 terrorists. She saved hundreds of people. we need people who are heroes. She's a hero. I hope that America stands up and becomes a hero. And when they come attack us, First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, which I believe very much in those amendments, but when they abuse the amendments, that's when I fight for the amendments, I fight against the rhetoric and the political movement and the leaders who use the amendments against the people. But when the people use the amendments incorrectly, you know what I mean, or cause issues.
Well, the DSA, obviously, that's the big thing you're talking about.
I'm going to tomorrow's protest, and I want to see them misuse their freedom of speech. They can scream and holler, but the second they get rowdy, I want to see our police officers. I want to see our great mayor, which I really like Mayor Adams as a person. Okay, we have a problem with the city. The city's not being run right. And Diane, when you get it to Senate, please send us money and watch it this time, because we keep screwing up and we don't know what we're doing with it.
Let me just tell you again, if Tom broke into my house and, committed horrible crimes and killed my pets and whatever, and I picked up a shotgun and ran down to Mexico and started shooting everybody, how would that address the problem?
But would you shoot Tom? Would you shoot Tom?
Well, that's actually, I'm against the death penalty, but I definitely want him rounded up and put out, out of commission somewhere. But I'm saying that if you don't get to the bottom of who committed the crime, then you're unleashing something which is really inhuman.
So I want to tell you, we have witnesses that a lot of the Hamas people were given work permits. A lot of those terrorists were given work permits by the Israelis to come from the Gaza to work in these kibbutzes. A lot of people recognized a lot of these terrorists. They were people we gave jobs. They were people we gave money to. They were people that we were nice to. So we know who they are. We do know who they are.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying.
So, of course, we're going to go into their backyard and we're going to go get them.
But take the 9/11 hijackers. The guy who made the fake IDs for all of the hijackers has been given asylum in the United States. So what I'm saying is there's clearly not an intention from the top to stop this, but there seems to be an intention to incite it, for which there are many reasons.
Well,
Perhaps the lowest level is what Kirby said, which is the defense contractors can make a lot of money. But I think it's worse than that. I think, believe it or not, you're going to find it wild that I'm so optimistic, but I think that mankind is going through a tectonic shift. I think this Anglo-American bubble of derivatives obligations held by London and Wall Street is finished. And thanks to the short-sighted idiocy of the Biden sanctions on Russia and so on, what has come into being much faster than people expected is a new partnership: Russia, China, India, the BRICS. And you know which nations the BRICS have added? Ethiopia, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Argentina. And now that's seen as a huge threat to these financiers. So how do you blow it up? How about we blow up Israel?
Why
we
Israel?
Blow up
But my question is, why Israel? Why not France? Why not England? What's Israel?
Look
the
at a
Jews
map.
Are the Jews just easy pickings? I mean, Diane,
Look at a map.
Diane, my father was a Holocaust survivor. They survived. He was a soldier, and they fought in the war. The Jews have warned the world, never again. The Jews have warned. Now, we did tell you that if you're coming after us, we're going to come after you, all of you. Not you, Diane, but I'm saying we're going to come back solid. I know one thing, that we're protecting my neighborhood here, the small little neighborhood of Borough Park, Flatbush, and Midwood.
Yep.
We're protecting it. We have our own security. But if they come and we find out who they are, there's not going to be hell to pay. We don't care about the police. We won't care about the army. We're going to flip out here. The Jews are tired of being the guinea pigs.
And this is one of the largest populations in the United States.
But my question is why the Jews? Okay, Palestinians and Arabs don't like the Jews. But why won't they? If you're telling me this big conspiracy. Let's go blow up the London Bridge. Let's go blow up, what's that big thing in the Eiffel Tower?
The Eiffel Tower.
You have so many things. Europe, right in the center of Europe, that would really make a big noise. Israel is a little bitty, itty place of nowhere. Yes, their technology, there's a lot of Jews. Even then, they don't even have a lot of, how many people they have there, devote? 15 million, 20 million?
Well, I think there's
Yeah.
a point to be
8
made,
million.
Heshy.
8 million.
There's a point to be made, Heshy, that, you know, like you talk about France, but Israel, it's a statement to people. It makes an emotional, but she's trying to, in her opinion, there's an emotional invokeness that comes in when you do something to Israel. It invokes people's emotions. If you do something in France, you know, from her vantage point, it may not be the same thing. I think what she's trying to also talk about is a new world order, and I think is a part of things here. So,
Well,
you
I
know,
think,
yeah, go
but
ahead, jump
also,
in.
look, Israel is the crossroads, and this whole region, if what's it between? It lies between Asia, Africa, and Europe.
Right.
So if mankind were to become better, this what they call the Middle East or Southwest Asia is one of the richest areas in human history. I mean, you know the history there, right?
And I think
So,
obviously emotions are inflamed.
but it's not only emotions, it's
But
very
you know,
important to-
Diane, bottom line is, my grandparents were burnt alive. And my father was a survivor, and we still have survivors around. The Jews are upset, and you're not going to be able
This
to
is like Bobby Yar.
Right. I mean, you're looking at 8 million upset people. There's no way to control them.
Right.
I mean,
Well, let's
6
take
million
Bobby
Jews.
Yar
6
for a
million
minute,
Jews.
because
Million Israeli
let's take
Arabs.
Bobby Yar for a
Okay,
minute.
go ahead, jump in.
Bobby
All
R.
right,
Let's
total-
talk. Who is
okay.
Bobby R? Go ahead.
Well, you had a total slaughter of what, 30,000 Jews or 40,000? I don't
Right.
know how many were killed there. The guy overseeing that was Stepan Bandera, the Nazi collaborator in Ukraine. You have now a government in Ukraine that has renamed the road going by Babi Yar from whatever it was, Kiev Highway or something, to Stepan Bandera Way. So we have a literal revival of Nazism, idolizing a guy who committed atrocities against hundreds of thousands of people, and the U.S. government sending $100 billion over there. So my
and what are you
point
going to
is,
do about it? You can't keep, Diane, you can't keep giving away every day $100 billion. We need the money here. How are you going to stop this,
Absolutely.
Diane? You can't keep giving away
Well-
this money, 80 billion, 20 billion. And
With
when we
6
ask you,
billion Iran, we
yeah,
spoke
and when we
about
ask you,
100 billion
and we
Sheba
ask you
wars.
for a couple of $100 million here in New York, you're not giving it to us. You've got to stop the money
exactly,
and it's from
and
flowing
that's
out of this
the
country.
beauty. That's the beauty of what just happened in the Senate. They stopped it, but the point is absolutely what you're saying. What are we doing for the United States? What is the vision for the United States?
And what is
And
your
one of the
vision,
things
Dan? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the United States, we should plan that our nation is going to have 1 billion people, and not because we bring in all kinds of illegal immigrants because we're, destroying the world, but because Abraham Lincoln certainly believed that. Our founding fathers believed that. And if you thought that, what kind of infrastructure would you build? You realize that Grand Central Station was built for, I think, 250,000 people, and it has 650,000 people going through it every
Right.
day. They have this obscenity called the Brooklyn Queens Expressway, which has been under construction.
And the Gowanus. Oh,
I
don't even get
hate,
it
I hate
started.
the BQE. I hate
Oh
it,
my
yeah.
God.
Well, it's been under construction for what, 37 years
So
or
is the
32?
Bell Parkway. So, yeah.
Yeah, and
Then
now
there's the Verrazano Bridge, the George Washington Bridge. I mean, New York.
Verrazano is better
So,
now. Thank God.
Who
It's
told
not
us
that much better.
to stop building infrastructure, that we didn't need to do water management anymore? Look at the floods. This is obscene.
Yeah.
You have people drowning in their basements
Right.
in Queens, where you had
And we had 'em in
floods
Brooklyn.
right in your
Queens,
neighborhood.
Brooklyn.
We had
I-
Bensonhurst,
I had
Coney
4 feet
Island.
of water in one of my buildings, and there was no way to stop it. Diane, I want to take a phone call. A friend of mine, Christopher Messi, a very smart, intelligent. You're going to hear him. And he's really way above us, and he's tired of all the tyranny and all of this.
He hosts his own show, The Messy Times. Yep.
Yeah, he also has the Messy Times. A wonderful guy. Chris, can you get Chris on the line? Is Chris there? Chris?
This will be interesting. I can see
Yeah,
from the
Diane,
comments
be ready.
already. He's, be prepared. He's going to definitely challenge you.
He's going to challenge you there. He's a great man. Is he on the
straight,
line?
we'll
Did you
see.
get Chris on? No. Of course not. When I ask for something, Diane, from my producers, they usually never come through. They scream and holler. Can you at least get somebody on the phone? Anyways, Chris, we're waiting for you to... Is Chris on? Is Chris on? We want Chris, no?
And while we do that, obviously, if you do want to call in and talk to Diane, it's 646-974-1580.
And what's her website?
SareForSenate.com, which is now put up on the screen. You also want to follow Diane. She's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. She's at Diane Sare.
Sare for Senate, that's on the screen. And also, don't forget, guys, I don't need your money. HeshyTishler.com. Support me if you want. By the way,
And
we
visit the office,
did raise a lot of
5386 Avenue.
right 5386. We can use volunteers on election day, November 7th, and callers to the show, to help us. But just remember, we did collect money. People are sending money. If you want to find a way to donate to the people and the families that have been destroyed in Israel, there are so many good organizations, so many people that are willing to help us ship boxes of food and vests and other stuff for the soldiers, and I'm sad, and I will cry, and I am going to go to Israel, and I don't know how, because right now, but I know I'm helping people with flights coming in and leaving. You can try to call me and see what I can do for you if your children that are stuck, but I'm going to go there to support my people, even though I'm an American, but these are my relatives and friends, and I'm going to be there. Christopher Messi on the line. We got him, Diane. Be ready. Are you ready? Sit down, buckle up. Christopher.
Hey guys, how
you
are you?
doing?
How are you, my friend? I miss you. I want to introduce you to Diane Sare. She's running for Senate, and you've heard what she said, Chris. So we're letting you rock and roll now. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, first off, good luck in your election campaign. It's always exciting. Like to see that. And just been working on this closely since it started. And one question which I think came up earlier, which I think is worth mentioning. There's no conspiracy. The Israelis did not let Hamas through the fence. The Iranians are incredibly effective hackers, and they hacked the system, basically. They shut it down. They got in the network, and they stopped it. Much like the Israelis put Stuxnet into the Iranian reactors years ago, so the centrifuges blew apart. This is a coordinated attack run by Iran, and the first move was a cyber attack, and we were blinded, basically.
Did they get help from Chinese? Like Diane said, the Chinese are working with them. Did they get help from the Chinese? Because the Chinese are great with that.
So the Iranians are phenomenal hackers, some of the best in the world. So wherever it came from, that's pretty much how they did it, and they blinded the sensors. I mean, that sensor network, one of the best in the world. If a mouse farts along the line, they know it. So that was not an inside job. I've been watching lunatics go on and on about the Mossad, wanted these people dead so we could force a resolution. That's just nonsense. The Iranians did it.
What about the 3 battalions that were supposed to be stationed there and they were moved away? I mean,
in hindsight, all sorts of decisions can be guessed at, right? But presumably at the time,
So what would you like to ask Diane?
What's that?
What would you like to ask Diane?
I'm just curious. Beyond any of this stuff, I mean, New York is in incredibly difficult shape. That's why we left. How are you gonna fix it?
Diane, that's a good question. I know it's very broad, but you see, Christopher Messi is a real New Yorker. His family still lives in. He just picked up and he couldn't take it and left.
Can't blame him on that.
Diane, you have a lot of fixing to do here, Diane. Step one, first thing, what are you going to do?
Well, if I were going to have the power to fix it, I should probably be running for president as opposed to just
That's next, Diane. Don't worry about it. We're right there for you.
More power as a New York State senator than you will as president, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, U.S. Senate. Look, the problem is there is so much wrong that you cannot actually address it piecemeal. And that's why I said we have to have a vision for our nation. And I think that vision has to include the idea that one day the United States is going to have 1 billion people. Now, what does that mean? That means you need a massive amount of energy. The nation probably needs about 500 nuclear power plants right now, of big ones, or a lot more small modular reactors. We need water management. I don't know the details about Borough Park where you are, but I know Woodside because I went there after those people drowned, and I learned the Army Corps of Engineers has very accurate flood maps for the whole, well, for the whole country, but for New York City specifically, and you can get them. They told Woodside that they needed a dedicated sewer line in 1976 when they only had 50,000 people living there.
Oh, and that's
Now
several
they have
times that
100.
now.
They have 150,000, and they never built the sewer line. So you have no drainage, no working
So
sewer
Diane,
system.
your job is in the Senate is start keeping the money here, build our infrastructure. Don't be worried so much about foreign policy. I mean, of course, we won't give up on it, but spend a lot of our money. And I agree that should be your way. And I wish you would be screaming and hollering. And we need somebody like you to make sure that you keep our funding here and throw the $100 billion our way instead of just $1 billion or so to fix a couple
Right.
of windows.
Well,
It's
there's
just not
another
good.
thing which I'm going to be taking up on Saturday, and if people are interested, they should
Talk
go
about
to
the
my
fundraiser. You have a
website. And
fundraiser coming up at
sign
4
up.
o'clock on Saturday.
I want to
Talk
come,
about it.
Diane, but it's a holiday. It's a
I
Sabbath.
know, it's Shabbos. I know.
I love you. She
But
said it
it's-
perfect.
Well, I listen, but at any rate, because look, how are you going to build the infrastructure for 1 billion people? You need a skilled workforce. You need a productive population, and they are destroying our children with this. It's not even transgenderism, it's the sex change policy. They are mutilating children.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't really
Yeah,
know.
that's
Can you
crazy.
stop the
What the
funding for
whole-
that? Stop it. Stop
Yes.
that stupid funding and teaching of that stupidity, Diane, and give us the money for school vouchers to allow our children to go to private schools. That's something that you, as a senator, have the power, and we're not getting those vouchers for our private schools. So we
So Heshy, we have obviously I know Chris is on, and it's great to hear from him again. But
Chris,
we have,
I love
we
you,
have
Chris.
another caller that wants to call
Chris,
in
tell your
and
beautiful
jump in.
wife and children we love them, and
And
I miss you. He shut off my
last
mic.
comment is that
Why did he shut off my
absolutely
mic?
I think we lost Christopher Messi, so
I don't have even a mic.
No, we can hear you fine,
obviously,
Heshy.
I think we're waiting for our next caller to come in here. So if you do want to, and also Diane's campaign, SareForSenate.com, definitely make sure to check her out, support her candidacy.
Right.
People are certainly commenting, and they're obviously frustrated about what's going on here in Israel. And we know that Diane will get in the Senate, and she'll certainly make those changes. And we have our caller on the line here.
Yeah, who's our caller?
2 minutes, by the way, for this caller. We have another caller right after him. So
Right.
is it
We have
Lenny
Lenny.
there?
Don't we have Lenny waiting
Lenny's
for us? Because we
on
want
the
Lenny
line,
to
yep.
scream at us. Who's the other caller?
It's,
Me, Lenny.
Lenny.
how you doing, Lenny? You
Hi,
got 3 minutes, Lenny.
No,
Give-
but Lenny, one question for you before you start. You and I know what happened in Israel. And you know that you're a police officer. You've seen it all, Lenny.
Let me go.
I'm
me
letting
say what
you.
I want to
I
say.
know. I want to ask Lenny.
Heshy,
I want to
3
ask Lenny.
minutes.
I want to ask him. Do you? I want you to ask. But stop, Lenny. I want to ask you. First, you're going to talk to Diane. Do you believe that we're going to have an attack against us?
Yes. Yes, I've already told my daughter, stay out of Manhattan. I already told my daughter, stay out of Manhattan. I also want to say online, I have to disagree with Alton Bryce, who says because no one could be as angry as Jewish person. Well, I'm not a Jewish person. I'm a human being. And when I hear that children are beheaded, and when I hear that people are burnt alive, that is an animalistic society. I don't even think Hitler was this bad, and what he did was an atrocity. Okay,
Hitler was bad.
but I want to say also with the 3 minutes, Bernie Sanders condemns Israel for turning off the electricity. What is he, a fake Jew? Are you crazy? What kind of a statement is that? And Biden overturns a law that Trump had and is now giving money to Palestine. People tell me I'm not crazy.
No. What do you think on all that, Diane?
I think what I said, which is that we're not going to get anywhere if we
I can't hear.
go at it from this standpoint. Look, the NSA, the NSA has everybody's data, every cell phone, everything you do. If there was going to be a crime committed, they would know about it and they could stop it. They choose not to. And we knew this before 9/11. We know from William Binney, who was one of the directors of the NSA. I forget what his title was exactly, but he was a whistleblower. He developed a system called Thin Thread that would have found 9/11. And we also know from him and Kirk Wiebe, who both left on Halloween after 9/11, that a group of people went to Michael Hayden at the NSA and they said there's going to be a major terror attack on the United States. And the director of the NSA said, be quiet.
Wow.
And they said
they're saying now that the Egyptian Secret Service or whatever told Netanyahu there was going to be an attack. Again, I don't understand the murder of 1,200 people, but let's just say that you're right about the conspiracy that they allowed this to happen. I mean, that means we're never going to be able. You and I are not going to. There are people that are just ready to allow the world to crumble, and they want a World War III, and we don't want it, you and I, Diane. We want a peaceful new place.
What I'm saying is the people have to stop allowing this. If you think about when Trump said he wanted to audit the intelligence agencies, and remember, General Michael Flynn got run out of Trump's administration. What did Flynn know? Flynn was fired by Obama because Flynn said, gee, I notice we're arming ISIS and Al Qaeda, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Right.
So Obama fired him. So Flynn wanted to audit the intelligence agencies. Trump said it, and then Schumer said, you can't do that. They have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. And lo and behold, Trump is now under 91 indictments. He had the FBI raiding his house. But they couldn't get away with this if the American people had the courage to stand up. And I experienced this directly when I working with Lyndon LaRouche, who had 400 FBI agents, armored vehicle carriers surrounding his home. And we know now it was, the Bush crowd, they intended to assassinate him. And it took Ronald Reagan, who was then president, to get it called off. We have lost our freedom.
Okay, so we have another caller. Real quick, Diane, I want to bring the caller on the line here, and I thank Lenny for checking in with us.
Lenny, I love you, Lenny, and stay safe. And I'm also going to be.
And the number is, if you do want to call for a few minutes, 646-974-1580. Lenny, we got to let you run. We have another caller on the line. Thank you, Lenny, for all your support. So, caller here, you want to put us on the line here? I think we lost our mic here. So, caller, are you on the line here now?
A war.
Do we? I think we have another.
Giving money to Palestine. People tell me I'm not crazy.
We have another caller. I think, Lenny, I appreciate you calling in with us, but I think we have another caller trying to call in here. I think our producer is trying to punch in.
Well, before we lose our crowd, and that is a good thing that Lenny did say.
No more caller. Is the caller on the line? Fine.
But Diane, he did make a good point. How do you give money to both sides during a war? I mean, even I want you to give Israel support, but they're still going to support the Palestinians, which Hamas gets the money in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, how does it make sense that this Biden is giving money to both sides? Why isn't the Senate stopping this? Why isn't the Congress stopping it? You don't want to give money to us. I mean, isn't there a way to get them and force them to stop giving both sides money?
Heshy, I think that you and I should be running this, and we would stop all of the killing.
That's what we're hoping for.
That's what we're hoping,
into the City
Dan.
Council, you get into the Senate. We can finally have 2 independent voices because both parties, the duopoly has failed us.
Right. I'm going to stop them wasting. When I get into City Council, I'm going to stop them from wasting money. And I'm going to call you every day, Diane, when you're in the Senate. It just can't happen. I mean, like you said, Diane, we are going to have 1 billion people. Not now, maybe in about 50 years from now. We have to be prepared, and we need the money for ourselves. And I know you're a smart lady, and I hope you get on that budget stuff and stop them.
The last thing before our listeners leave, Diane, talk about the fundraiser Saturday, 4 o'clock. What can we expect one more time, and where people can go, and give us all that information.
Well, sareforsenate.com, the event pages, you can sign up. I'm happy that one of the leaders of Moms for Liberty, who's been fighting this, will be speaking. There will actually be a concert of classical music.
You were good
and
at that, I heard.
I will, well, I'm a trained musician. I'm not the greatest singer in the world. I play trombone. But what we also want to emphasize is, what should we be teaching our children? Not only is it criminal to brainwash them and get them to mutilate themselves and suffer horrible physical disformation for the rest of their life, but when someone is 4, 5, or 6 years old, that's when you want to put a violin in their hands or teach them French or,
Right.
geometry or physics. You have potential geniuses, and we are squandering that to create. And by the way, on this criminality, very interesting article about convincing children that they're the opposite sex. And the person made a point. He said, if you can take a fundamental truth, that is a male and female is female, and you say, no, that's not true. That's just your, that's maybe what you were assigned at birth, but that's not your true gender or your true sex. They said, if you can get people to say that it's not true.
All right, and I want to thank, obviously, our listeners at 6:20 a.m., 1640 WJPR 93.5 FM for tuning in this week. We'll see you all next week. I had one more question for you,
But I want to tell you, Diane, I was leading in a report, Tom, you're going to like this, that they interviewed about 20 years ago 100 kids that were 2 years old, and they gave them the genius test. 98% of them showed genius capability. When they went to public school, kindergarten, they redid the test when they were like 5 years old, and the numbers came down to 75%. The same people they went and tested through public school when they got to high school, and the number was down to about 25%. When the people finished public school, it was down to about, I think, 2%.
So why are we funding public schools?
That's what I'm saying, Diane. Public schools are the biggest scam. Like you said, we need to teach these children how to play with music. We need to get public funding. We need to push our private schools, and we need you to take that $25,000 that you give per kid for public school and give it to us to go to private schools. And watch our private schools, monitor them, but at least give us more. They do a better education. And you are wonderful, Diane. I'm so happy you were with us. I wish I could see you Sunday. If somehow your fundraiser goes past 7 o'clock, I'll zoom out to Queens and come visit you.
Well, thank you very much. I do think we also better fund our public schools, because it doesn't do any good to be a genius among a bunch of people who don't know anything and are perverts. So we've got to.
Thank you, Diane. You're
we've
wonderful.
Got to raise
Stay
the whole
safe.
Standard.
Stay safe, and when you come back from Syracuse, come visit us.
We want to see you here back in Brooklyn, our district. Yep.
Yeah. And
all right.
Be
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much.
She's
you. Just great.
Wonderful to be with you.
Absolutely. That's what we need. Independent voices, Heshy.
Not independent voices. An independent voice that understands the route and how she's going to get us there.
Well, and just like you're going to be in city council as an independent fighter and voice, she's going to be that independent voice and fighter in two chambers that desperately need it. And again, if you want to get involved with us, 5318 16th Avenue, corner of 54th Street, next to Cafe, 2.5 blocks away from the D train. HeshyTischler.com. Check him out. Also, YouTube at Just Enough Heshy, 7,005 backspace streams. Heshy _Tischler Instagram.
Don't forget Sare for Senate.
Sare for Senate. We've been plugging that throughout the show.
Check her out,
Sare
guys.
Senate.
Really, you will
Diane
see
Sare.
she's smart, she's intelligent, she's beautiful inside and out, and she's the one that we need to get rid of.
She's
Chuck
a peacemaker. I think that's what it comes to.
I understand. I didn't want to push it. I understand she had to be very political with the Jewish Palestinian thing, and if she can make peace and she can make this go away once and for all, I'm in. I'm in. It can't go on. I'm 60 years old. I can't
Well, it ain't
see
working
murder.
right now with the leadership we got. We got Schumer and Gillibrand. What are they doing for the crowd?
Nothing.
They're doing nothing for us here with migrants. They're doing nothing for us in foreign policy.
We didn't even ask her about the migrants. We should have pushed.
Well,
that.
this was tonight. We had a catastrophic issue going on in the world right now. This was more
Well,
important.
my
We'll get her
heart
back.
goes out to all my friends in Israel, all my
And
family
say
in
hello
Israel.
to Black Beauty. Just chimed in. Loves Devorah's scarf, by the way.
I do. Yeah, I told you,
And
Devorah,
loves,
it's a beautiful
and Black
scarf.
Beauty loves your tie, Heshy.
Yeah,
Yes.
they made me wear a red tie
And
today.
Linda has good taste, apparently.
Well, she spends $55. She better have good taste. But I want you to know, I was in the street today making a commercial video for my show, for my
And Lenny wanted to
campaign.
ask one more question, but next week, because unfortunately we were trying to get callers.
Right. We got to let the producers go home because they're making me miserable. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for my Instagram fans. I hope we
And
got
God bless Israel. God bless Israel.
God bless
Stay
Israel.
strong, Israel. We support you. And
Right.
what is going on there is absolutely unacceptable. It's barbaric, and they need to be put
And
stop.
I do love Diane. I think she's wonderful and smart, and I know she's being very political because in the Senate you have to be. But I'm just a Brooklyn boy, and I'm telling you something. When you start up with us, we fight back. I know I'm saying something bad, Tom. I know you're not going to like it.
no.
I want them to go in and crush them, squeeze them, suck their blood. I don't care who's on the way. I watched the video right before I walked in. I know we're over the time limit of them burning a young girl alive. She was alive. They lit her on fire. I watched it.
I tell you, Heshy, before we go, who will get the job done? Denzel Washington's character in Equalizer.
Yes.
I promise you, Robert McCall. We send Robert McCall down
That's
there.
a movie.
And
It's a
John
movie,
Wick.
Dad.
And John Wick with him. Listen, forget about it. This is all over.
You got to fill the Devorah in.
They